I'll call this regular council meeting of the Village of Grand Manan to order at 7:30 p.m. For prayer this evening, we have Deputy Mayor Sturgeon.
Yes, let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are truly blessed to live in the country that we live in and the island that we live in, Lord. We have so much compared to most in the world. God, we pray, Lord, that you may grant us each wisdom, Lord, and what to do, Lord, with what you have granted us, Lord God. And give us wisdom, Lord, and we ask in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen.
Just a couple of quick things for opening remarks. First of all, a big thank you to everybody who helped organize and run all of the events on Canada Day. I know there were some record-breaking crowds at several of the events, which is always good to see that many people turning out. So from what I heard, everybody seemed to have a good time and capped it off with a lovely fireworks display. So that was great. The only other thing that I would mention is, given the weather that we've had over the last few days with the heat and the dryness, we are entering a wildfire season, and hopefully not as dry as last summer, but just so people are remembering to use caution and continue to watch for the Grand Manan Fire Department, their Facebook page. They're updating daily what the burn conditions are, so it's a good resource if you're wondering about a campfire or anything like that. So with that, I will ask if there's any disclosure of conflict of interest. Hearing none, we'll move on to adoption of the minutes. Councillor Green.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that we adopt the minutes as circulated for the May 27th, 2026 meeting and the June 1st, 2026 meeting.
You heard the motion from Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. You saw me looking a little frantic there. It was because I've lost the treasurer's post-it for an addition to the agenda, so I'm hoping she's going to bail me out here shortly. But while I'm talking slowly and she's finding her notes, I'd sent an email, I think on Friday, suggesting that we add under new business a discussion on potential amendments to the procedure bylaw, particularly relating to the opening prayer, given some of the latest news. So that would be under 14.6. And out of the general operating fund, we would like to add a payment to Home Hardware for $7,762.63. And that is for steel, mostly for Victoria Park, but other fencing. Have I got that correct?
The biggest bill is for the steel, the rest is just for the tube statement.
Okay. So those were the two suggestions I had. Was there anything else? Would someone like to make a motion to add those?
I'll make a motion to add this.
Heard the motion from Councillor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder?
I will second that.
Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded?
Nay.
Motion carried with one opposed?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
in all due respect, if there's not unanimous consent, then they cannot be added to the agenda.
Okay.
That is correct, isn't it, Councilor Green?
All right. Well, then we will table those two for future discussion. Moving on, there's no one from the RCMP. So under number 9, we have old business, Victoria Park Aquatic Facility. CAO Rayner to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is more information than anything. At the end of the last council's term, we had an opportunity to sit down with Honorable Wayne Long when he was here to do the announcement on the funding for the wharfs. And during the meeting, he brought up the fact that there is a new federal program, Build Canada Strong Fund, which was being released, and asked if there was any projects that we had for recreation. So we had an opportunity to say that one of the things that's been tossed around for the last term or so was the refurbishment of the old existing pool at Victoria Park. So he encouraged us to apply. It was a very informal application because things hadn't been released yet. So we threw some, last minute, we threw some numbers in an email and forwarded it to him thinking that's probably as far as it would go. When we were all away at the orientation in St. John, I had an email saying that we were selected to go to the final round of applications, which was very encouraging. It only required a bit more financial information. One of the key points to this whole thing is that it needs to be shovel-ready for 2026. So I filled everything out and have resubmitted it for final application. Now, we have no idea where this will go. I mean, we're optimistic that it'll come through. Right now, the estimate for the pool project is somewhere north or south of about $1 million. I applied for $660,000 from the feds through the new Canada Building Canada Strong Fund. We also have in our current capital renewal fund approval for $210,000 for a new washroom facility at Victoria Park and $280,000 to go towards the refurbishment. Part of the $1 million project includes the new washroom facility. So if you take the 660 that I've applied for, the 210 for the washroom change facility, and the 280 for the pool, that brings us up to 1.5, which is hopefully in excess of what will take to do the pool. So looking at those numbers, we could get the entire thing funded through federal programs. But before we get to that point, it'd be nice to know whether or not this is something that everyone around the table thinks is something that the village wants to take on. Before we get to the point where they come back and say, congratulations, you've been approved for the funding, and us have to go through the process of saying, sorry, we've changed our mind, we have other priorities. So at this point, I mean, I'm not looking for any type of a commitment or a motion, just more or less thoughts around the table, if this happens to fall in our lap to be approved.
I see Councillor Ballantyne.
Yeah, I love the idea of a pool becoming a probability or a likelihood. It's been missed by most of the island, and the idea that we could get one without paying very much for it ourselves is really delightful. Those are my thoughts.
Councillor Brady Ross.
I 1,000% agree with this and would do anything that I possibly can to make sure that it works, because people are taking their kids away to do swimming lessons and stuff. They, you know, if you can't afford a private pool, then yeah, I 100% agree that we need this back.
Councillor Toll. Oh, sorry, Councillor Toll.
I think it's a great idea, and I really think we need it, but I want us to also consider what it's gonna cost to manage it, to look after it, to employ it. You need lifeguards, you need people who run things, people who clean things. And, I mean, I think it's a great idea, don't get me wrong, I think it is, but don't forget that's not covering the costs of maintaining it, fixing it, employing it. So maybe we can work on what that might cost to add that to it. How much are we gonna have to put in a budget line for it, or? Yeah.
Councillor Urquhart and then Councillor Green.
I'm 100% in agreement with it. I'd actually like to take it a step further and have it priced out to see what it would take to have something year-round. Right? Something heated, because it's a 3-month season as it is, but there's a lot of training and stuff that takes place we have to do on the mainland. You could start actually creating a little revenue with it. Seniors with mobility issues and stuff, so.
Counselor Green?
I guess I left my light on there. Sorry about that. I agree with Councillor Toll. I mean, I think everybody thinks a pool's a good idea. The question is, what is it actually going to cost? Not only to build, but to operate. And we know we have some big unknowns looking at us, and it would really be nice to tie some of them somewhat down, if we could, before we paint ourselves into a corner that reduces our, excuse me, our flexibility on the other things that may be on our plate.
Okay, Counselor Greenlaw?
I think this is an asset that we really need to put some money into and some thought into. It's really, really important for the community and the kids. And without it, we've been missing a whole lot of our summers. So definitely for it.
Counselor Ricard?
Just a question for COA. Is the when you put in for your, I'm trying to think of the word, the funding, is it something that could be added to, or is this the dollar amount that we're trying to work with?
It was based off of, they were looking for projects that were shovel ready for 2026, because they want projects to be able to take pictures of and show that the new program, and look what it's doing. They didn't want projects that was going to be 2-3 years down the road. They wanted things that as soon as they announced the funding could start. So basically, we took the information that we had from the pool from a year or so ago and sent those numbers in. So what I've applied for is we can only ask for a maximum of 60% of the total cost of what I had. Now, if I had a cost of $3 million, we could ask for the same percentage of that cost. But I went with the price that we had for to refurbish the existing outdoor pool.
Any other thoughts or comments? Councillor Ross?
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with it. I mean, I've been talking to the kids that jumping off the bridge and stuff, and they all asked me about the pool, when we were going to get it back. And I said, well, it's on the agenda, so hopefully we'll get to it.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Sturgeon?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I echo everyone's, thoughts on this here, and, a few concerns we've heard around the table as well. But, Madam Mayor, it's important to remember that this is really, as far as operating costs, nothing that we haven't done before. I mean, we've, as far as an outdoor pool goes. Now, when you start talking indoor, year-round, yeah, that's so much more, absolutely. But if anything, on a bright side, is that our old pool, there's a reason why we shut it down, because it was hurt in shape and it cost more to fix it all the time. So when you have a new facility, it's going to be, of course, much easier to maintain. And not only that, if you have a refrigerator from 1953 and you have one from 2023, guess one is the most energy efficient. There's no contest, right? So it should be cheaper to run, per se, more energy efficient compared to what we had that was built in 1967. So anyway, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Valentine?
Just one more comment. I'm wondering, is it possible to amend the funding request? Because I like Gary's idea of having a year-round pool. I think it would be beneficial to the whole community. Or could we do it in 2 parts, maybe?
I have no idea if we could or not. I mean, we still have a very thick document from the wellness center, which was the indoor pool with the walking track, because I'm not sure how many remember, back then, one of the biggest requests was for the indoor walking track as well as the pool. And that was, don't quote me on that, but somewhere in excess of $5 million, with the annual operating costs of $350,000.
Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Simply to acknowledge the discussion that's already been had around the table. I think they're all very valid points. They don't need repeating. I simply wanted to be one to add my support for this.
Deputy Mayor Sturgeon?
Yeah, just one more thing, Madam Mayor. Since we don't have to make a decision tonight, it oftentimes when we had, like when we did the arena section in this year and such like that, we did consult the public and had some numbers for them to go over. So if, I would like for us to have a public meeting per se, just to keep the people well informed of what we're actually dealing with here, if possible. Thank you.
So I'm going to try to wrap up what I think I heard, and if I'm mischaracterizing, please put me back on course. I'm hearing general support for proceeding with the application, support for an indoor pool, but concern with the operating costs, concern as well with the operating costs of what the outdoor pool would be, but an acknowledgement that we have done it in the past. And then the piece about the public consultation, we should take that into account as well. So maybe for next steps, we keep our fingers crossed that we reach round whatever the next round is, the final round. But maybe in the meantime, if staff has an opportunity, they could go back and look at what the operating costs were. I think, well, the last summer we would have operated would have been 2019 because we didn't operate since COVID. So recognizing that those numbers will be slightly outdated, it would at least give us some idea of what the operating costs were and some idea of what we might be ballpark looking at. Is that fair? Yeah. As a next step? Okay. The next thing is the delegation or special speakers, NBCC Senior Care Navigation and Care Skills Development Program. We had a technical issue, so we're going to try and get them on the agenda for August. I will say I had a call with them a couple weeks ago. They want to come here and do a course essentially for, I think, 12-ish people who are caregivers to people who are aging at home but are having maybe dementia issues, things like that, and some support around those things. So we've been back and forth with maybe some options for places to hold the session, but they just wanted to talk a little bit about what the program is, and I thought it was a good opportunity to get word out as well. So if we get them here in August, I think they're looking at the end of September and October coming here to do it. So a little bit of time going forward. That brings us up to number 12, which is petitions and/or written submissions to be read. There is a letter in the package on groundwater risk, and probably the CAO is in a better place to talk about this than I am, but we had prices in about a year ago to do a groundwater study, and we were holding off doing it until we could find some funding. The CAO was working with the RSC, and their economic development advisor had come up with another program, and so we've applied to that, and this is a letter of support for that. So if there's any questions about that, just wanted to keep everybody updated on where we are and what that was. Hearing nothing, the next item is correspondence as well. This one I will probably read, just let me. Okay, I had it in here somewhere. I don't know which one of you was faster, thank you, that was kind of impressive. So this is from the Charlotte County Seniors Resource Center, operating under the umbrella of Passamaquoddy Lodge, Inc., wishes to advise that we will no longer be providing Meals on Wheels service due to the 5 residents currently participating in the Meals on Wheels project. It's no longer sustainable for our organization to continue offering this service due to the logistical challenges involved and the limited number of clients we can serve through the program. Our hope was to work towards a sustainable Meals on Wheels program on Grand Manan. However, that has not come to fruition. We will continue providing meals for an additional 6 weeks. Deliveries will take place on July 7th and July 29th, after which the program will conclude. By the end of the project, we will have delivered 4,851 meals to seniors on Grand Manan, helping to support their health, independence, and well-being. They wish to extend their gratitude to the Village of Grand Manan for its support throughout the project. We greatly appreciated the use of the arena for freezer storage and the ongoing willingness of village staff to assist whenever needed. Your partnership played an important role in making this pilot possible. We would also like to formally recognize Coastal Transport Limited for their valuable support for this initiative. Their assistance in allowing us to transport coolers on the vessel was essential to the successful delivery of services to island residents. We further acknowledge the professionalism, cooperation, and kindness of their staff, whose willingness to help ensured smooth coordination and safe transport throughout the project. And finally, we extend our sincere thanks to the clients who participated in this project. Their willingness to engage and provide feedback was essential to its success. It has been a privilege to serve them, and we deeply appreciate the trust they placed in our team throughout the duration of the project. So that was understandable but disappointing news, because I think we were all hoping that it would become more sustainable, because there certainly is a need on the island for a program like that.
Madam Mayor, I
Yeah.
have a few questions about this program.
Yep.
And like yourself, it is a great loss. And I'm wondering, have we been contributing financially or any other such way to this program?
I think as outlined in the project, in the letter, they've been storing the meals here, and they had not asked for funding. I don't think that that was the only barrier to the success, though.
Okay. No, I was just thinking that it might be something that one of our local charitable organizations or even a church or something like that would like to do, and so I was wondering if we were contributing financially, that maybe we would be willing to help it to continue, but it's just a thought, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I would say, I think if there's any organization out there that is interested or has an idea, to reach out, because I think they'd be more than willing to work with another group if there is someone that has an idea for that. So, anything else on that one? So 13.2 is a letter from John Williamson. It's a letter of congratulations and funding opportunities. I'm not going to read this whole letter because I think you've all heard me read enough tonight. But he does extend congratulations to the council. He has identified the Build Community Strong Fund as some funding opportunities, and there's a couple of different streams as he's outlined. And then he also mentions the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation outreach team to potentially set up a meeting with them. I know in the early days of the Housing Accelerator Fund, I think I had a conversation with them, and it was maybe not the most fruitful conversation I've had, but maybe it's worth having another conversation with them, or having him reach out to see about having a conversation, if that's the will of the group. Questions or comments on John's letter? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. There's 2 applications for donation. The first one is for Grand Manan Island Fest Music Festival, and that one is an application for $500. The total funds required for the event are $2,000. And they are holding a free community festival that we are hoping becomes an annual event. We figure it'll cost around $2,000 to fully put this on. I am fronting all monies to ensure it happens, but would love to have the community involved. Any aid is greatly appreciated. questions or comments on this application? Counselor Urquhart?
I see the date, but where is this taking place? They're in the field down there, or right on the campground itself? Okay. Yep.
Any other questions or thoughts on this application? Counselor Urquhart?
I'm all for it. Anything that is gonna bring people to the island should be a good time. No problem.
Would you like to make a motion
I'll
then?
make a motion.
To approve the?
Approve the requested $500.
You heard the motion from Counselor Urquhart. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Sturgeon. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Second is an application for donation for, thank you, I'm just gonna use yours. Also for $500. The total funds required are a little over $4,500. And it's for New Brunswick Day celebrations, fireworks, games, band and barbecue. And they are looking, as I said, for $500. Counselor Ballantyne.
I have a question. Do we know where the fireworks are being set off?
Don't worry, because he also come off on the other side of the Seal Cove Wharf, or he's on the Anchorage Beach, or
It was Seal Cove Beach last year.
was it the beach?
Any other questions or thoughts? Yes.
One thought. Just, what if come July 20th, we're in a fire ban and we've donated money for fireworks that can't happen if there's a burn ban on? Just a thought.
Counselor Ballantyne.
We could do a conditional donation.
Anyone else?
And I don't think this is just for fireworks, it's like having barbecue and things like that.
So, anyone want to make a motion, or Counselor Greenlaw?
I'll make a motion to donate the $500 on a conditional basis about the fireworks.
You heard the motion from Counselor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Counselor Toll. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 14.3, municipal equipment truck purchase, CAO Rayner to discuss.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This will be fairly quick because unfortunately the truck that I was working on is no longer available. So, but to give you an idea of what the purpose of this is, so we basically have roughly 1,000 tons of sand and 1,000 tons of salt that we require for winter operations at the Public Works garage. We bought the new dump trailer this spring so we can haul our own material to save some money. We currently have Klein in school taking his class 1 to help out with the extra demand. Anthony, his role has increased with the amount of garbage going to the landfill, increased amount of bottles going to Moncton for recycling, also the recycling material that's going to landfill, cardboard, electronics, et cetera, et cetera. So the thought is for a second vehicle. A newer truck that we would have to be able to use to either haul stuff on the mainland, and we can use our current truck to shunt stuff locally and on and off the ferry. But this truck has to have a wet line, which is a hydraulic system which is able to run our hydraulic floor in our walking floor trailers for garbage, as well as the dump trailer for the sand and the salt. I was working on some options from East Coast Trucks for possible purchase or lease or a short-term rental. Looking at the amount of money we spent last year on just the sand and the salt, well paid for the rental or the lease of the vehicle. But unfortunately, someone has recently rented the truck for the next 8 weeks, which is basically what we were trying to shoot for. We're trying to get most of the material here before the adventure goes to dry dock. So we're not adding extra congestion to the ferry if we don't need to. So I will continue to work to try to find something, and when I do, we'll come back to the table for another discussion, but just something that's in your mind that we're looking at.
Questions or comments? Councillor Toll?
I just, can you explain, like, are we gonna be just renting this for getting that material here, and then it goes back and our trucks will be it'll be where it's supposed to be? Or are we planning to lease one like we did? Because we leased one last year, I believe, didn't we? We have a lease on something that's out there.
I had 3 options. I had a purchase option so we own the truck. I had a long-term lease, which was a 3-year lease for the truck, and I had a short-term rental. Because the majority of the extra work that is required for the truck is over the next few weeks to get the winter maintenance material here.
And then once that's here.
And once that's here, that part's over, the summer rush is over for the garbage and for the bottles and things like that, that we could go back to hopefully looking after it with the current truck that we have.
Okay, I just didn't understand that completely.
Councillor Green?
If we rent that or lease it, are there going to be restrictions on who can drive it? If we have a newly licensed driver, can he, or are they going to demand years of experience to be able to operate it?
As long as our municipal insurance will cover it, they're good.
Councillor Urquhart?
The current truck we have now, that has the hydraulics for the walking bottom. Okay. I'm just wondering if maybe there isn't enough warrant. I know that in the summertime, obviously it's busier, more garbage, more what have you, but it seems like in the wintertime too, they're still lugging salt, and I'm just wondering if maybe, because the one that we've got now, in my opinion, seems to be more of a shunt truck. The long haul with that limited days, that truck's needs and does require a fair bit of work.
Yep, you're right, and there's no question that when we have backup for our systems, we're completely covered. I mean, most of you know that one of the reasons why we bought the dump trailer was because our walking floor garbage trailer was down. It was down for an extended period of time because the floor was frozen. So we bought that to have for backup in the event we were down a garbage truck. And we're looking at redundancies and backups for snow plows for winter time in case we lose a snow plow. So anytime you've got a backup or options for trucks, because that truck has been down, it's had some issues. We just had a major repair done to it, which hopefully has resolved some of the issues and it's more dependable. But even with our Packer truck, when we were hauling the recyclables, we couldn't get recycling to Lawrence Station for about 2 months because we didn't have a way to get it there. So anytime we've got redundancies in any of our operations, it's certainly a bonus.
Just one more thing to add with that. Where it is this time of year, you know, obviously we want to get our sand and salt here ASAP. Would it not be maybe beneficial to look into putting it out for tenders for this season until we can actually acquire something, or?
The whole point was all about saving money, saving tax dollars, because we paid a lot of money to have salt, sand, and garbage hauled.
Yeah.
So anytime we can do it in-house is a huge savings. When we send, just for example, anytime we send Anthony in the truck, so if Anthony come to work tomorrow, he's gonna get his regular hourly wage for an 8-hour day, because that's what he's gonna be working. If he's sent to the landfill tomorrow and he's off for an 8-hour day, it's only costing us an extra fee that we pay him while he's trucking. So it's literally peanuts compared to what we're being charged from a independent operator.
I just, like, the maintenance, tire wear, all that stuff, even with the, like, at some point, I'd kinda like to have a look, see that, the maintenance on them trucks too, right? Like, obviously, you're not running them up and down the highway
For nothing.
for nothing. And fuel costs, of course, regardless, but, yeah.
I think that we've talked about doing a budget process starting earlier, and maybe that would be a good, I'm looking at sometime in August, realistically, towards the end of the month. Maybe that's a good thing to have, like, on, to flag as sort of a side conversation through that process as we go over our current budget, to talk about what our costs are and what some of those expenses are, just so we've all got a little bit better understanding of what we are up against with some of those things. Because it is mind-boggling how much it costs to move stuff off this island some days. Any other questions or comments on municipal equipment? Okay. The only other thing I'll say to that is it may be one of those things that we have to have a shorter notice special meeting, because sometimes with these things, it's more of time is of the essence type of thing. So just stay tuned for that one. 14.4, Provincial Mobile Communication Center Contract Review, CAO Rayner to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I sent everyone on Friday a copy of the agreement with PMCC. So just to give a bit of a background, PMCC is the Provincial Communication Center, which they dispatch all of the 911 calls, whether it's fire, ambulance, MB Power. They don't do police. Police have their own internal one, but so we are the last fire department in the province that doesn't get dispatched through PMCC. We've all been talking about the new TMR radios and upgrading to those. One of the conditions from the province is before they will give us any TMR radios, we have to have a signed agreement with PMCC. PMCC, even though we're the last fire department in the province that doesn't use them, they actually do our 911 calls. But the difference is when, if you called 911 today and said you had a structure fire, they call, they tell our fire department there's a structure fire, and then once our department knows, that's it for the call. The call is ended. With signing the contract with PMCC, they actually, from the time that the call comes in until the call is completed, stay on the line. It's recorded. If there's any other service required, whether it's RCMP, ambulance, MB Power, Alliant, Fisheries Notions, anyone, they're on the radio, on the call, monitoring 24 hours if you need any further assistance. So we have that agreement. It's a standard agreement. Every other fire department in the province all have the same agreement. I ran it by legal. There's no concerns there. Like I said, it's a standard one that everyone else has signed. But before we can move forward with upgrading to our TMRs, we have to have an agreement with the PMCC.
And that was included in the budget for 2026, correct?
Correct. In that agreement, there is a formula, and I don't know where oh, it's right here. The formula is based off of our tax assessment. So for every $100 of assessment, it's 0.0064 on the tax rate. So I think it worked out somewhere around the range of $17,000, which it's in our 2026. We talked about this at the end of 2025. We put it in the 2026 budget as a yearly charge.
Questions or comments on this from the group? Councillor Anderson.
Just one question, does that formula in its present state align with the budgeted amount?
It does for 2026. Now, if our 2027 assessment goes up, that'll go up as well. So we'll have to up that amount in the 2027 budget.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Green?
So the province is gonna supply some TMR radios, or we're gonna buy them all, or how does that all work?
The province has committed to 13 TMR radios in total. For free. I believe in our 2026 budget, we budgeted $50,000 for the purchase of additional radios or any other equipment that we might need to go with those. But when RadCon comes down with the radios to do the training with our department, they will also do a coverage check of the entire island to make sure there's probably going to be some dead spots, and that's why RCMP used them. But the RCMP also has mobile repeaters in their cars, which amplifies the signal. Radcom has offered a mobile repeater in the event that we have dead zones that we'll be able to keep and have in one of the trucks just in case. So as of right now, they've committed to 13 total radios and the potential for any additional equipment that they seem that's warranted.
Any other questions or comments on this? I think we need a motion to proceed with it, just so it's in the books. I see Councillor Valentine leaning forward.
I move that we proceed with this and sign the agreement.
You heard the motion from Councillor Valentine. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion carried. 14.5 is municipal property. I received an email. I'm just going to find it in my package here because it's easier. Thank you, Esme, because, anyway. So I received an email last week from a resident concerned about motorhomes that were parking in the parking area at Stanley Beach, and considering lost revenue to various campgrounds on the island. They are looking for a policy, or essentially for the village to have signs that say it's not overnight parking site for motorhomes, something along those lines. So I'm just looking for what the group feels about the use of village property for overnight camping during the summer months. So I see Councillor Green leaning forward.
We actually own land down there?
Yes, we
I
do.
thought it was just where the porta potty thing.
In the parking lot.
Pardon?
Parking lot.
In the parking lot?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Urquhart?
How big of an area are we talking for the parking lot? Roughly half an acre?
No, basically the gravel parking lot at Stanley's Beach is what we have.
Yep.
I wouldn't be opposed to, if we actually own it. I see no problem with them taking advantage of it and make $1 off of it. I understand what the complaint was, but I'm kind of going the other way on it, I guess.
Anyone else? Or Deputy Mayor Sturgeon?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First off, I'm a little surprised that we do actually own it, so. In regards to this, I have had some conversations with people before that don't feel that the village should be in competition as far as renting properties out, all due respect to Councillor Urquhart. And I kind of see their point in that regards, as far as like in competition with other businesses like the Hole in the Wall and things like that. The other thing is, I mean, first off, this would have to go to the bylaws committee if we're going to go in this direction. And the other thing is that saying fines will be served, I mean, who's going to serve them? Because the RCMP, from what I understand, won't. So, I mean, it's one thing to threaten one thing, but if you're going to do it, you better follow through, or else it's toothless and it makes us look pretty weak, really. So, That's my thoughts, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Ross?
What about the Southern Head Lighthouse? I see people camping down there, is that, we own that too, or is that just?
That's still, the federal government still owns that. Yep. Anyone else? Go ahead. Yes?
I mean, we do have more property than just the Stanley's Beach. I mean, we also own the parking lot at Seal Cove Beach. We have the piece of property that leads down to the beach next to Wade Reppert's in Castalia. So it's not just one property, but it's also getting back to the deputy mayor's comment about if we have that, a way to enforce it. But on the other hand, if the campgrounds are full and people, we're encouraging tourists to come here, and if there's nowhere for them to stay, you know, pulling into a parking lot where it's hopefully safe and lit, it's maybe should be something that we should consider. But
Councillor Green?
Yeah, they park in some strange places. I've seen them in the independent parking lot a few times. People park there for the night. I mean, if you get caught short and the park's full, what do you do, I guess?
So, Deputy Mayor Sturgeon?
Madam Mayor, I'm gonna make a motion that we refer this to the bylaw committee and let them discuss it and see what they do their homework and see what and report back to council, of course, later and make a recommendation.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Councillor Anderson. Question?
I'm just wondering if maybe this isn't something that tourism should be looking at as well. Tourism committee.
just a suggestion, a policy is a lot easier to amend than a bylaw. If this is something that we wanted to talk about, maybe we have a policy on overnight parking at municipal facilities rather than a whole bylaw.
Councillor Green?
Yes, maybe we could get the CAO to contact his group there, the CAOs, and see how they're handling that in other municipalities, because I'm sure it's not unique to Grand Manan, using our property for overnight parking or whatever.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Deputy Mayor Sturgeon?
Madam Mayor, in light of CAO's recommendation, I'm willing to withdraw that motion if Councillor Anderson is willing to do the same as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the motion is withdrawn. I'm hearing some support for discussion around a property, and a suggestion to refer it to Tourism Committee. Perhaps, does that make sense to send it there to start with, or should we or do a committee of the whole meeting as a group? Councillor Toll and then the Deputy Mayor Sturgeon.
I just want to, my opinion on this is that it happens everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's people who are traveling all summer, they stop somewhere, they spend the night, but while they're there, maybe they're not paying for the anchorage, but they're paying for their meals, they're buying groceries, they're seeing all the tourist areas. So I think for 2 months of the year, you can put up for 1 or 2 cars stopping somewhere for the night just to have somewhere to sleep. And you know, they're still spending money. They're still buying gas here. They're still taking the ferry. The only thing is, if they're causing a racket and a party, sure, you stop it. But if they're just there to have a nap, I don't see a problem.
Deputy Mayor Sturgeon?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the suggestion about taking it to Tourism Committee, so maybe we bring it to Tourism Committee and come up with a policy in this regards.
Okay, so is that okay with the group? We'll refer this to the Tourism Committee and come back with some suggestions on a policy. Okay, that brings us up to committee reports, and 15.1 is the Ferry Partnership Committee, and that was circulated in your package. We met on June 25th, Coastal Transport representatives from the trucking industry and Ferry Partnership Committee. Basically, while the Adventures in refit, the province has indicated that if there is a preferred time for the fifth crossing to run, provided it is back to Graham and, the 5 is back to Graham and Ann before the 7:30 ferry in the morning. But if there's some way to maximize the usage of that trip by the trucking industry, they would be willing to look at alternate times, subject to their approval, of course. So that's what the conversation was around. There was discussion about delaying the departure from Graham and Ann. It would normally leave as soon as the 5 was back and unloaded, which is 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, depending on how late the ferry might have been running at that time. There was a suggestion that if it left at 1:30 in the morning, it gave trucks that came over on that crossing arriving at 10:30, 11 o'clock. They need about 2 hours to unload, so it would give some of them an opportunity to unload and then maybe go back at 1:30, which would free up a little bit of space potentially on the 7:30 in the morning crossing, which tends to be busy with residential travel. So that was the recommendation coming forward from that committee. The thing that I forgot to include in there, which I realized over the weekend, is that there was also discussion about the increase in size of the tractor trailers since the 5 was built. There's issues when you have 2 rows of tractor trailers and both ramps are in use. There's inches. It literally inches on a good day for those tractor trailers. So there was a suggestion that if there was more than 3 tractor trailers, that only 1 ramp would be used. But we also wanted to confirm if that was the case with the province, that the capacity numbers that they were using to calculate would reflect the fact that we were only able to use 1 ramp, not 2, because we're essentially losing the capacity for 10 to 12 cars with that ramp not in service. It was also noted that the 7:30 and 5:30 crossings, which are used mostly by residents, that those would be, both ramps would be used for those. And if there weren't 3 tractor trailers and there was more cars, obviously that they would be used then. But that was sort of what the conversation was. Any questions or comments, or did I miss anything from the discussion from the committee members that were there? Any comments on this? If everybody's okay with this, I've not talked to DTI since the meeting, but I will forward this along and just see what happens with the approval process and go from there. I think we all acknowledged during the meeting it's going to be a long 6 weeks, but if there's anything we can do to sort of ease up on the traffic, it's worth trying, and if it doesn't work, then we know it doesn't work. So, okay. So hearing none, moving on to 17.1. We have approval to pay the following invoices from the General Operating Fund. Alpha Securities for the Swallowtail cameras, $2,836.48. Alpha Securities, the Business Center cameras, $2,569.68. Safety Source Fire for the fire department scuba flow tests, $1,716.95. Sullivan Sales and Service for the transfer station Kenworth, if I got that right, $7,295.56. And WFR Wholesale Fire for fire department protective clothing, $3,904.53.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to pay the pre-read invoices from the General Operating Fund.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion carried. We have nothing in closed session, so that means we're down to the wrap-up, which means our next meeting is here on August 10th at 7:30. It was an A month, I was close. That is quite a ways away, so we may have to do something in the meantime, particularly if something comes up with an option for the truck. So with that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
The motion from Councillor Toll,